Right, so in this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your baby's umbilical cord. Now, as you know, you've got a placenta, and the placenta attaches to the inside wall of your uterus, and from the placenta extends the cord, which attaches to your baby at the belly button. Okay, so I've got my baby, I've got my cord, and I've got my placenta. Now, everything is inside your belly. So my placenta is inside my belly and my baby's inside the belly. And of course, this is not two separate things because baby is actually inside the bag of waters. So if this was my bag of water, now baby would all be inside. Baby would be inside of this bag, okay? And that cord wouldn't be hanging at the bottom. So baby would be inside and the placenta is attached to your uterus. Everything is embedded in the uterus and baby's inside here. And this is their bag of waters. But I want to specifically talk about the umbilical cord and the fact that obviously the umbilical cord is your baby's lifeline. So the blood that is being pumped from your heart is going via the placenta and then through the cord and directly to your baby. I'm going to take baby out of here so that you can see. So from the placenta through the cord and to the baby via two arteries and a vein. Now, arteries take oxygenated blood to the baby. Vein takes the deoxygenated blood away from the baby. And these three blood vessels are obviously incredibly important, but they are protected by something called Whartons jelly. And Whartons jelly is an amazing substance because it is designed literally like a jelly to surround those the arteries and the vein, to protect them from any damage and to keep them intact, but also so that when the baby is born and my baby is now on my chest and the cord is still extending down to the placenta, which at that immediately after birth will probably still be attached to the wall of the uterus, until the cord is clamped and cut. And once the cord is clamped and cut, then the baby is literally separate from you. It's now a separate, completely separate being on its own, no more connection to you. And when that happens, baby's circulation changes, which is another whole video. Nevertheless, that cord will now be over here, and then the remaining bit, so let's say the cord had been cut, now literally I've got the end of the cord, the placenta is still inside of me, and if you're left for that to come away physiologically, it can take up to about 20 minutes for the uterus to continue contracting, and what it does is it knows baby is out now, but the placenta also needs to come out because the placenta is an organ that you develop in response to your pregnancy, and it's the only literally disposable organ that you will ever, you created it, and now you don't need it anymore because it's done its job of looking after and providing nourishment and oxygen for your baby. So you don't need it anymore. So the uterus literally expels it by the same uterine contractions that helped you to birth your baby. Those now continue, and it causes, because now the blood flow, because the cord has been clamped, it knows now that it's time for the placenta to come away. So it detaches from the wall of the uterus. And if it's physiological, it will just sort of slide down in response to the contractions, and a little bit of gentle traction will come out of the vagina after the baby. And that is what we call physiological third stage, and can take up to 20, 30, sometimes even 60 minutes for it to happen. Very often in a hospital birth, we do what we call active third stage, which means that after the birth of the baby, you're given an injection of syntocinon or pitocin, which is a synthetic version of your own oxytocin. Now, we know that oxytocin is the hormone that causes you to have contractions. So when we give you that synthetic version, what it does is it stimulates those contractions, literally making the uterus really clamp down and expel the placenta sooner and more efficiently. And in conjunction with that, your midwife or doctor or care provider will also do a maneuver that we call Brunt Andrews, which is probably named after some very old doctor, where we provide a little bit of pressure against your belly and gentle traction to bring the placenta out. And when we do active third stage, it's usually done within the first 5 to 10 minutes after birth. Once the placenta is out, we manage the bleeding, and obviously there's quite a lot of bleeding, so don't be surprised at how much blood there is in a normal birth. And of course, that would bring us to, if you feel really squeamish about blood, but it is part of the birth process, because remember that during your pregnancy, your blood volume itself increases by 50%. I mean, so from the beginning of your pregnancy to the time that you have your baby, you are circulating 50% more blood around your body, which is another reason that we are watching your blood pressure throughout your pregnancy, because your heart is having to work harder. It's another reason why it's so important that you check your hemoglobin level, so that we make sure that there's enough iron circulating, not iron, but hemoglobin, which is the oxygen carrying capacity part of your blood, circulating in the body to be able to provide you and your baby with that. So to get back to Wharton's jelly, I got a little bit off track there. Wharton's jelly is the jelly-like substance that surrounds the arteries and the vein of the cord. And the amazing thing about it is that when this cord is now outside the body because baby has been born, in response to that, the jelly-like substance actually changes its consistency and almost congeals, and naturally causes the closure of those blood vessels. So in the event of not having a cord clamp or a cord tie or anything, that is what would happen. So as the baby's circulation changes and doesn't require the blood and oxygen from the placenta and from you anymore, those vessels and the placenta are not necessary, and they will gradually close down as that jelly congeals around it. So it's just another one of what I call nature safety nets. It's absolutely a wonderful thing to know about. In the movies, it's always like, get the clamp, get the tie, got to cut that cord. I remember I birthed a baby in a car once, and it was one of my clients, but we never made it to the hospital, and they called me on the way. I happened to be in the area, came, she had the baby in the car, everything was absolutely fine, baby went onto the breast, but it was peak hour traffic, so it took us about an hour before we could actually get to the hospital, and she was planning a hospital birth. So we went in, and I was amazed, because when we arrived at the hospital, the first thing everybody was worried about was clamping and cutting the cord, and baby was absolutely fine. And yes, we did clamp and cut the cord, but it was certainly no emergency. By then the baby was an hour old and had a beautiful sleep, nice and pink and warm, on mom's chest. Everybody was delighted. The car was a mess, but it was fine. And that was literally Wharton's jelly in action, because baby was breathing well and everything had worked. So a little bit more information below this video about Wharton's jelly, but a little bit of explanation from me about that, and all the other things that come along with it. Enjoy.